Okay, welcome to INWED Talks, which is an initiative of the Women's Engineering Society that celebrates International Women in Engineering Day. INWED is the Women Engineering Society flagship global campaign that highlights the achievements, contributions and impact of women in engineering, whilst inspiring future generations of women to pursue careers in engineering. This INWED Talk series explores the INWED 25 theme of Together We Engineer through different perspectives, highlighting collaboration and innovation across the engineering sector. This session focuses on engineering and motorsport, and we'll be examining how organisations like the Women's Engineering Society and motorsport partners can work together to create a more inclusive and dynamic industry. To discuss these important topics, I'm thrilled to welcome you, Richard Jepp, Advanced Engineering Manager at Harwin and Pro-Am racing driver with a mission to inspire more women into motorsport. I'm hoping you're going to share your perspective on supporting women in motorsport and the critical role of engineering in high-performance racing, and how industry-wide efforts can help shape the future of motorsport engineering. Welcome, Richard.
Hello, thank you for having me.
That's okay, a pleasure, and so it'd be really great if we could open with you just giving us a little bit of an introduction about yourself, about your role in engineering at Harwin, and then a little bit more about what you're doing in your racing career. And it'd be really great as well if you could just sort of talk a little bit about why you wanted to encourage more women into motorsport through this partnership.
Absolutely, no problem. So yeah, I've been in engineering for my entire career. Started at Harwin nearly 22 years ago now. Came here not knowing what I wanted to do. When I was 18, went through my apprenticeship stages, H&C, H&D, and developed all my skills within Harwin. They nurtured me and brought me up from the assembly line and now to manage the engineering department. So I'm really thankful for them to give me the opportunity. But I've also learned a hell of a lot along the way. You know, I've seen the company change quite dramatically, and I've seen how the change in the people as well. Diversity has changed massively. The people that we've had through the door have brought new and fresh ideas, which is a lot of where this has come from. And obviously then alongside that, I've been into motorsport as well. Started at a very young age when I was 7 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Started go-karting. I blame that on my dad. I went to see, he had a team building day, a local indoor karting place for his company. Went to watch that, got completely hooked, and that was the end.
Here we are.
Here we are. So I raced go-karts for 7 years. Unfortunately, I was 6 foot odd when I was 14 years old, so I was a little bit too big. And the financial backing at that time wasn't there, so I had to give that up. I was at British Championship stage at level at the time, racing with people like Lewis Hamilton. We'll throw a name drop in there.
What's happened to him? Where's he now?
Jensen's Button's dad used to build my engines, and so I was at quite a high level. So it was difficult for me to drop, but it was a case of what I had to at the time.
And just thinking about that, Richard, sorry to interrupt, I just want to sort of draw on that. So you sort of brought together two things there, haven't you? The fact that you were coming in from, you know, you're fully immersed in the sport, but you've also come in from your experience as an engineer. And it'd be really interesting to see, you know, to hear your experience of you know, were there women in those early stages of your motorsport career, you know, from 7 even, you know, were there girls around, and did you sort of, you know, what impacted you through that experience to make you kind of want to partner with Women's Engineering Society to encourage more women into motorsport?
Yeah, there really wasn't, from what I can remember. That I don't remember seeing a single female in the paddock,
Right.
whether that was driving or engineering. It's really, it was a male-dominated sport. We're talking sort of early 90s, mid 90s, late 90s. So things in the world have come on a hell of a long way since then. And I think that it does stick in your mind, and I think that that kind of thing is ingrained into yourself without maybe even knowing.
Yeah.
But then the idea around the WES partnership really came from my partner in this project, is Charlotte Mitchell. She also works at Harwin, HR manager here at Harwin. She's very positive about bringing women into engineering and developing pathways for females in engineering to create careers, and increasing diversity. She done a piece for her master's degree, was on hurdle boundaries for women in engineering in STEM. So she's very informed about the subject.
Yeah.
I've taken a lot from that. We've worked together, and then more recently, where I've been back into motorsport over the last few years, she's come to some events, and we still notice there's a massive lack of female presence
Yeah.
behind the wheel and in the engineering side of things. So that's
Yeah.
really where the idea came, about
A
ways we
massive
can.
shout out to Charlotte.
Absolutely, a massive shout out to her. It's yeah, she really developed the idea with myself as well, but a lot of the ideas came from her side. So I've got to thank her a lot for that. But yeah, so more recently with motorsport, even in the paddocks these days, there is a more female presence, but it's not at the level where I really think it should be.
Yeah.
You have academies like the F1 Academy, that's coming out very soon. The Jamie Chadwick Academy. You've got the Charlotte Tilbury Academy. They're all developing drivers, but there's nothing that's really
Yeah.
pushing the engineering side within motorsport for females. So the idea around this is to create that first little stepping stone for female engineers to be able to step in at grassroots level
Yeah.
and start to develop the skills that they need to be able to have to get into the Formula One stages.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important point there, isn't it? Those two sides of the coin. So there's, there is that kind of, the singer in the band, the driver, but then there's everyone who's standing, the minds that build the machines, and create the processes, etc., to really push the performance to where it needs to be for elite sport. So that's
Absolutely.
so good that we're kind of reflecting the other side of that, and so great that we can draw on people like yourself and Charlotte, who are working within engineering to bring what they've learnt in manufacturing engineering to the racetrack. So that's really great, and very excited to be involved in that. I just want to spend a little bit of time grilling you a little bit about the technical and the people challenges of racing. So kind of merging the two. And as we've just discussed there, motorsport is very much about the engineering as much as it is about the driver's skill. And so looking at you, what technical challenges do drivers face that you draw on your engineering experience to solve?
I mean, there's so much engineering in a race car. There's so much that you can't see, that as a driver you rely on working, and you rely on working well. And I mean, everything from heat management to aerodynamic balance and things like brake cooling is stuff that as a driver you have an understanding, but once you're behind the wheel and you're driving, you're relying on that to perform at its best, to enable you to do what you need to do. So the engineering behind those, I mean, you're looking for tenths of a second a lap. It seems such a small amount of time, but to get there, you speak to people in Formula One, they'll spend £1 million to save a tenth of a second a lap. So and that is all engineering. So it's so important.
It's so incredible, isn't it? Just like you say, to look at effort that goes into those marginal gains for sport, but so interested, and as you say, so often built on engineering prowess, and a lot of that innovation comes from having the diversity in the teams to be able to contribute to those new ideas, in your case to reliability, speed, performance. Have you I mean, you said that as we started that women were noticeably absent, but have you have you got any examples of women that you've worked with on the racetrack, and what contributions they have made, or is it literally as stark as, well, actually you just have not seen them and that's why you want to do this campaign?
Yes, so more recently, over the last 3 to 4 years, I've been racing for a team called Team Northbrook Racing. They're a college-based team, and the team principal is a lady called Emma Norton. She is a PhD in marine biology, I believe.
Yeah.
Very clever lady. Loves her motorsport. So she's quite heavily involved with the team, obviously. And the students, even over the few years that I've been there, the initial year only had a few students there, and none of them were female. The second year, there was 1 or 2, and then the third year, there's 2 or 3. So there is starting to be a gain in females wanting to get involved, or maybe feeling like they can access what's there.
And do you think Emma's presence has really kind of encouraged the men, with having her there as a bit of a role model and a figurehead? Do you think that's contributed to the steady rise?
Yeah, absolutely. I think motorsport can, especially if it's a male-dominated sort of environment, can maybe seem a little bit of a hostile environment, let's say. I mean, you're spending a lot of money, and sometimes so things can get stressful. But when you have female presence around, you get that balance of like sense and stuff as well. So I think having the team principal being female is definitely a draw for somebody to come in. And someone to feel more comfortable joining. But one thing I will say is, at the grassroots level that I'm currently racing, and even what we're proposing to do in 2026, is a step up. But the community vibe within a paddock is something I've never experienced before. Everyone's helping each other out. Everyone's full of advice. Everyone's approachable, because it hasn't got the F1 sort of money involved, where everything's behind closed doors and everything's secretive. Everyone wants to help each other out. So it's never a silly question to ask. People can be approached, and you can network through that as well. So,
and that's so good to hear, because I mean, obviously I come in contact with a lot of women in engineering, and I have heard some not great stories from people's experience over the years and working in that sort of higher end. And I think it's really interesting what you say about the high pressure environment and the culture that it seems to have brought about, and your reflection on the impact of having a diverse leader, or diverse team, and in your case, Emma as your leader, who throws a bit of a shadow on how to conduct yourself when thinking clearly under pressure, and that doesn't always equate to that kind of toxic behaviour that is belittling or every man for himself. So that's really interesting to hear. That's so good, and so good to hear about the grassroots vibe, I guess young people would call it. People are there to support each other, and that actually at the grassroots level it feels inclusive. Everyone's encouraged to learn and get involved. So that's amazing. That's really good.
Absolutely.
I want to bring you a little bit back to melding your worlds of being an engineer and being a driver. Obviously, when you're racing, you need to make split-second decisions. What experience from your career as an engineer do you bring in to sort of troubleshoot, I guess, when you're mid-race?
Yeah. So you are thinking so much as a driver. Your mind is full of all sorts. You're making split-second decisions all the time, and reading situations. But the understanding of how mechanically the car is working is so important. Even after a test session, to be able to come back and speak to an engineer, a data analyst, to go through what's happening with the car. What you're feeling might not be reflected in the data. So being able to compare that, and communicate that well is very important. And understanding what a change will make. So if I'm having a trouble with the brakes, or I'm getting a bit of understeer into a corner, what can I change, or what can we change to make that better or improve that? It might not be something as simple as you might think, So understanding of what that is and how that feels for me, but then being able to communicate that to an engineer that fully understands that and knows exactly how to feed that back to me and tell me how that will improve the car is massively important.
Oh, yeah. Now, you've mentioned a few things that I just love there. So I'm highly data led. So I love that that's all playing into there. And that whole piece about translating data into insights, and then also bringing in feeling. So you sort of talk about how you feel in the car, and it's a bit, it is more about feelings and translating into then what does that mean in terms of the engineering. So that's really, really interesting to hear you use that language, I guess.
It's quite often you'll feel or hear something before something shows up in the data, so you're very used to how a car should feel and how it should sound. So if you hear a knock, or you hear or you feel a vibration through the steering wheel that might not be picked up on a sensor, you need to be able to relay that and then work with the engineers to understand what that could be, find the issue before it becomes something else, so it's massively important.
Yeah, sort the little problems before they become big problems.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's so interesting. So interesting. I have to say, I know that I'm going off topic here, but this is a bit of a theme for me, but I get horribly car sick.
Okay.
So I'd be useless, and so even just driving short distances, if I'm in the passenger seat, I just immediately go to queasy. But that has all changed with EVs. So
really,
I came down from Northumberland to the Midlands last week in an EV, and I was able to actually read a book, which would have been, I mean, I could not have even entertained that idea. And so it's really, I'm sure we could do a whole podcast around the feel of driving an electric vehicle versus combustion engine. Just for me is remarkable. I mean, it's been transformational for me. So hooray for EVs.
Yeah, it must be like the vibrations or like the gear changes maybe that you don't get in an EV.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's the much smoother ride that you get from an EV. It's got to be something to do with that. I think as well as smell. I think maybe something to do with the smell as well. Anyway, this is not about me. It just reminded me there when you were talking about sensing the car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of a nice segue actually to talk a little bit about sustainability in motorsport. And I would be interested, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this talk would be interested to hear where motorsport is going in terms of sustainability, and the impact of engineering innovation on making it more of a sustainable sport. What's coming through on that? What do you see in terms of sustainability in motorsport, or is it pretty much just about performance?
No, there's a very strong emphasis on sustainability. There's almost a three-pronged attack on it, to be honest. So they're looking at sustainable fuels, as much as they're looking at EV and hydrogen. They're also looking at sustainable combustion fuels as well. So touring cars at the moment are using sustainable fuels. This is the first year they're using that. getting exactly the same performance as they were with the normal fuels as well. So that's a very interesting one that's just started to come around. Obviously, you have the hydrogen packages as well. There's a car being developed to race in Le Mans, I think, in 2027. That is a hydrogen engine. I know companies like JCB and Caterpillar are developing hydrogen engines currently for their plant machinery, and that has become, now they're manufacturing those, so it's become a long way. But then you also have the software side of things and the development of prototypes. You can have a software program that can test a new design of a part in a computer, rather than having to manufacture a prototype and it fail and then having to manufacture another one. And obviously the impact of that is massive over a season of all the thousands of parts you might make. But then you also have like the logistics, the trucks that take the cars from one race to another, the aeroplanes that people are using. So there's a huge amount of work to make motorsport as a whole more sustainable. I know Formula One are really hot on the transportation of the teams and the cars, of reducing that impact. So they're using a lot of biofuels in the cars, in the trucks now. So there's a lot of work. And
so good to hear. So good to hear.
And especially like we're touching back on the women in engineering side of things as well, is the different way of thinking and seeing a problem differently with a different set of eyes is so important with this kind of thing, and diversity brings that, whether it be performance on the track or for the sustainability side of things. Just a little bit of a different way of thinking might open up another pathway to explore and find these goals that we want to achieve.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. And something I know you'll take from your work, your day job, and into your racing, that you'll see those high performing teams are made up of people who bring difference to the table. So that's a really good point to kind of round off on. To finish up, I just want to talk about a little bit about leadership and resilience, if that's okay. So thinking about the resilience, obviously motorsport requires resilience. It requires adaptability and very much teamwork. What leadership lessons have shaped your approach on and off the track?
I mean, endless amounts. I mean, some that you might not even, or I've not even really known that I've absorbed, but I still do them to this day. The main one is making sure that you listen to people. As a leader, you need to be able to listen to people that are around you, and take in what they're feeling and their advice, and be able to use that in a way that's beneficial for the team. And just being part of the team as well. For a leader, I think sometimes it's easy to sort of separate yourself, but you need to feel what's going on. You need to be part of that, and be part of the growth. Everyone wants to perform. Everyone wants to perform better tomorrow than they did today. So to be able to do that, you need to be able to absorb everything and work on ways and work together to go forward.
Yeah. So good, so good. And then thinking about the engineers that are coming up behind you, what strategies have you used, or have you seen other people use, to build resilience as you're coming into the early stages of your engineering career, either on the track or off the track? Lessons from either?
I mean, they're very similar for both. It's putting the time into your craft, is whether that's motorsport or engineering in any sector, is having the time and understanding and really learn from your mistakes, work with the people and take advice from the people that have been doing it before. There's never, like I said earlier, there's never a silly question. So you will get hurdles. There's hurdles for everyone along the way, but when you get over that hurdle and show your resilience to get over that hurdle, is such a great achievement for yourself, and you're going to feel better for it after that, and that's really going to ingrain into your mind as well that you've achieved that and you've overcome that hurdle. And I think that it's the same for all sectors. That it's belief in yourself, and strive to go forward always.
Amazing. That does really resonate with me. I always say that to people, the hard things are always the ones that are the most rewarding when you finish them. So that does really resonate with me. And so good to hear your reflections more broadly on teams, and who needs to be in them to make sure that they're high performing, as we said before. I just want to finish off, Richard, by talking a little bit about what's 2025 and 26 got in store for you, and especially pulling out those opportunities that you think we've got through this partnership to really raise the profile of women in motorsport, to encourage more women in. So what's the next year and a half got in store for you, and how can we work together to raise the profile of women in motorsport?
So the rest of this year, I'm racing in a series called City Car Cup for Team Northbrook Racing, as we spoke about before. Currently, I've had 2 race weekends already, all gone pretty well. So we're really building towards a 2026 season where I'm looking to step up to the Mini Challenge Trophy, which is part of the British touring car package. With that brings massive opportunities for partners and huge exposure. It's 14.8 million TV viewers last year. This live broadcast on ITV4. Over 400,000 live spectators. And the network and opportunities that brings in the paddock and at the racetrack, obviously huge, but the exposure from live TV coverage and the media side of things should be absolutely massive. So we're really working towards being able to give engineers, female engineers especially, opportunities within motorsport and within the team that I'll be racing for, which is Pro-Am Racing. We've got Scott Thompson, who is the MD of that, working closely with this project. So we're going to offer mentorships, internships, work experience with the team at the live events. Is something over the last couple of years working with Student Motorsport. I've found that the live learning is so important. You can't teach what you learn there in a classroom. There's scenarios that come up, and the pressure of getting stuff done and being able to deal with that and move forward with that is something that will go with these engineers for the rest of their careers, So we want to give that stepping stone for people that are coming into engineering, especially female engineers that want to find that safe, sort of more comfortable area to work with, that really wants to push females in engineering. And we want to be that. So
yeah, that's so amazing, and we're really excited to work with you to get those opportunities out to as many women who might be interested as possible, so that you can kind of deliver that. And I think it's great that we've done this session so people can get to know you a little bit. We've got you on camera saying that you're inclusive. So you have to live up to that now, Richard. No, I'm sure you will, and we're really, really excited to share those opportunities to our network, so that we can sort of build that goal together. So really exciting. Obviously, we are going to be working together to build out how we bring those opportunities to more women. So very excited to be starting on that. But thank you so much. It's been really lovely to speak to you and to hear a bit more about what you're doing. And obviously, anyone wishing to follow along on your journey, we will be sharing that through our Wes socials. And if anyone wants to get involved, then please do get in touch. But thank you so much, Richard, and thank you, Charlotte, in the background, for your help.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for Wes for coming on board and being a charity partner for this journey. We're all really excited and just really excited for where this could go. So
Amazing.
looking forward to everything.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you very much, Susan.